Season 8 is done and in the books, ladies and gentlemen.
Indeed.
It's the final countdown, I guess, if they really aren't going forward with Gen 4 after next year. So this is the apparently next to last season, which is unfortunate, but at least the season had some pretty memorable episodes. There were some crap ones, but they were pretty good. How did they rank up? Let's find out today on Dragon Ball Z. Hey, what's up? I'm Snake.
And I'm John, and we'll be going over the scores in just a little bit, but let's talk about the season as a whole first off, as we always do. Season 8 overall, I thought was really, really good. I thought it was interesting how they brought in a couple of different elements, being the Young Six and the school. And I one of the things that really impressed me about this season was, unlike a lot of other times when they've really like brought new elements into the show that they're kind of forgotten about for half the season, this one they actually brought the Young Six out a whole lot more than I thought they were going to. They each had personalities that were distinctive enough for us to be able to differentiate between them. Plus, they were all given good, like they didn't really have like starring episode roles. They were mainly relegated to, just the Young Six as a whole, except for maybe Smolder a couple times. But in reality, it really worked out, and they really click well as a unit.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like as far as like, and they've only done this a couple times, but I feel like as far as overarching, as far as overarching seasons go, this is probably the best one to do it since 4. 4's overarching stuff really worked because somehow, some way, it was always kind of present in the background more often than not. But even then, they had the key episodes spread out throughout the season, and they didn't just get them all in the second half, or they didn't get like half of them at one point, or like 2 in a row or nothing. So it was very, excuse me, it was that was pretty well spread out. Season 5, the premiere and the finale, if they change some stuff, honestly, that, and I'm being realistic, I'm being honest here, I don't think I've said this before, but that could have been the movie if you think about it, just because like the first half is like the first 2 episodes, and then you have the middle act, but then the finale of the movie is Starlight going through time. But other than that, and 4, I mean, there was no other, to me, real like engaging overarching things. What was nice about this was, like John said, it wasn't so much that because the Young Six, they were there, they were present, they had some episodes together, and then on the subject of Cozy Glow, she's been in the background ever since. So even though it didn't necessarily ever really imply just how big a scale the story was going through on the sidelines and stuff, it was always present, and it kept the audience, thinking and guessing and theorizing and stuff. And like for the little kids, like, them, trying to figure out like Cozy Glow and like how things connect and all that. I'm sure it was probably fun for the kids too. So this was this was my this was it's almost like they got like the Naruto or One Piece guys to write. They're like, hey, we need an overarching arc, but we also need some funny jokes. And they're just like, okay. They just read a bunch of Shonen Jump, and then everyone on the DHX team got hyped for Jump Force.
Yeah. Now, on the subject of Cozy Glow, one of the things that I noticed and kind of have been thinking about is the fact that she's very similar in rising to power like Palpatine was in the prequels. Because if you really look at it, she was the one that kind of used the CMC to insert herself into the school, much like Palpatine was able to use his power as the senator from Naboo to usurp the power of the Supreme Chancellor by injecting himself in.
You could also go an extra mile and say that Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan, and Jar Jar, who were his biggest supporters at the time, could be stand-ins for the CMC, if we're going with this analogy.
Yeah. And then you look at, like, what's interesting about Cozy Glow is not just, her insertion originally, which it's quite a high-ranking episode. But I'll say that, you look at episodes like What Lies Beneath, that she's wanting to kind of tear the young six apart, because she knows that with Twilight and the main six, they're able to pretty easily be manipulated because she's just a child. What would they expect? Yeah. But with the young six, she really sees them as a threat to her, and so she uses that to kind of split them apart, especially in episodes like What Lies Beneath in the finale. So you can see her being manipulative throughout the series, but it all kind of comes to a head in the last couple of episodes.
And I know not every, but I know a lot of critics say what I'm about to say, because they think it makes them stand above the rest, makes them look all highbrow and stuff. But I'm serious, dude. The kind of villain that's the most interesting and intimidating to me, not saying Cozy Glow is intimidating, because, there's still that little bit of it's a cartoon. But what I mean is by interesting is that it's the villain that can win a war or start a war with just words. Because again, if we're keeping with the Palpatine Cozy Glow thing, their whole thing was right place, right time, saying the right things to the right people. The only difference is that when Cozy Glow was trying to split the young six apart, she didn't account on, and I'm not going to say the young six are better friends than the main six in the sense of the depth of their bond, but in a certain way, there's a certain depthness there, because with the main six, you got 2 unicorn, 2 earth ponies, and 2 Pegasi. So even if, and they never really did this, but even if they did the whole let's say Pegasus think that they're the best ever, and freaking unicorns think they're the hot shit or whatever. It's interesting, kind of if we're getting into the sense of pony hierarchy, but in the grand scheme of things, all three types of pony are pretty equal. But with the young six, we're talking 6 individuals, each from different cultures, different I almost said races, different species, and they're kind of coming together, breaking down, again, to use that term again, they're breaking down walls of that were pre-established really until the main six, fucked up Nightmare Moon, what would it be in the show's time? 3 years ago or 2 years ago in the show's time?
Something around there, yeah.
In that sense, because they were able to transcend what was at the time, let's just say cultural barriers, and then take in that sense, take steps forward. It adds a lot of depth because they have less in common than with ponies. So in that sense, they've had to almost get to know each other more because of the species thing. So Cozy not being able to tear them apart quite as, or at least mess with their minds as frequently as the main six, it makes sense. Also, they're closer to her age, and I find that there's a certain age of people, probably between the age of 16 and 28, where you just don't trust anything a kid says. So, and I'm assuming the young six are teenagers, so it makes sense that they wouldn't be subdued by her big wide eyes.
And looking at, you were talking about how the young six are divided by more than just type of pony, because if you look at it, you have a changeling, you have a griffin, you have a hippogriff, you have a yak, you have a pony, and you have all these different characters. And
Did you say griffin? I heard Hippogriff, but
yeah, I got Hippogriff, Changeling, Griffin, Yak, Pony, and why am I not remembering the last one?
Oh, Dragon.
Dragon, yeah. So looking at it from that perspective, I do see what you mean about how they have a bit of a higher curve to, getting to know each other because they are very much more separate than just type of pony. And, that really kind of shows, especially with episodes like the Christmas episode where Gallus is just like, I wanted friends because they keep talking about all their different stories of what they do for the holidays, and it kind of brings into perspective of they have very different lifestyles, very different ways of life, but at the same time they're able to go past those differences and really come together as a unit. And I just got to say, thinking back to that episode, I have to say, Sandbar's a total stoner. Like,
he's like,
he's like, do you want to know the time that the heart-swarming doll almost got into the fire?
He's like if Bill and Ted had a kid with Wayne and the other guy from Wayne's World, the blonde one.
Oh yeah,
yeah. But no, and plus they're young, plus they're teenagers, and some people may be conflicted on this. I think it's easier when you're a teenager to make friends in your own age group. I feel like when you get older, maybe you have a bit more luck getting friends older and younger than you. But for the most part, I think most teenagers are able to work with each other. Plus, on top of that, if adding more dynamics, and this doesn't matter really in the grand scheme of things because they never really even acknowledge it in the show. But there's also 3 dudes and 3 girls on this in this friend group, which also adds to the diver. Wait, is it 3? Because there's Sandbar.
And, so you actually, I think it's 4 and 2 because I think Gallus and Sandbar are the only 2 males, and then you have Silverstream, Yona, Ocellus, and Smolder as the 4 girls.
Well, still, it adds that extra bit of, I don't want to say much needed because it's not like the show needed more diversity, but it's just fun world building,
And in all honesty, I think the reason that there's only 2, the fact that there's only 2 males in that group, that's probably why Gallus and Sandbar are shipped like crazy.
Yeah. I mean, you know how hard Big Mac had it until they tried giving him a girlfriend like 3 times.
Oh my gosh,
they used to ship him with Carmel and Brayburn.
Well, everybody's gay for Brayburn, so that made sense, but...
Well, yeah, that does make sense. But...
Yeah.
Okay, so, overall, you take a good antagonist with a good pace to the overall story. You take 7, so that's the Young 6, and then also Cozy Glow. You take 6 new interesting characters, and what do you get? You get season 8. Overall, the season kicked quite a lot of ass. Did it kick all the ass? Not necessarily. But the Young 6 have become some of my favorite characters in the show. So no matter what anyone says, and no matter what I've said about this season, before and after this declarative statement, the Young 6 are some of the best characters in the show, and they've been around for 12 episodes maybe in total. So some more or less than others. So if nothing else, we got that, and that's awesome. And yeah.
So why don't we go ahead and look at where these episodes fall and everything, because I'm really excited to get to this. I may have to do a little bit of digging here because I'm wanting to see how the season stacks up in terms of how many points total, because I apparently forgot to do that for some reason, but I do have the scores for everything else. And so let's get going. So in total, there were 16 places in this season. Quite a few ties, as
that's some of
tends to be.
That's some of, I don't know if that's the most, but that's more places than we usually have, I think.
Usually we get like 14 places, so we're usually, I
Yeah.
think we're like 2 more places. So, but it should be good. So, in 16th place
Number
with
16.
a number 16 with a 63% D minus, we have non-compete clause. God, this episode sucked.
Mm, let me tell you something. This episode, you remember how with 28 Pranks Later, we called it Married Part 2?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't say this when we reviewed this episode because I wanted to save it for this. I take back what I said at 28 Pranks Later. If anything, that's a spinoff. This is Fall Weather Friends Part 2. This is a sequel, a direct continuation. It's just like Electric Boogaloo. Okay? They started writing this episode like 2 weeks after they wrote the other one, but they couldn't find a place for it in the last 6 years. And then they were like, well, hey, we need something to fill out the runtime now. This was total regression. It made Applejack and Rainbow Dash look like total geeks. It was, I don't want to say it's minus 5 stars, but it's not a good number of stars. Know what I mean?
Oh yeah, I totally get what you mean. This episode, I do agree with you. They had to regress Applejack and Rainbow Dash to make this story work,
And it was
and that is
really,
not okay.
really, really noticeable.
And just like what we were saying with the cart before the ponies, they should not regress character development to make a story work. Never, ever, ever do that.
I have a personal preference rule when they do stuff like this in TV shows. I always say if you're going to make a character look dumb or look like a geek, at least give them either a plausible reason or make sure it's funny. It was neither. Same with that freaking go-kart episode. But in this case, it was, I don't know which one's worse, because that one, that was 3 characters, but, but they were 3 of the more hit or miss members of the main 6. Here, it's the most reliable one and the probably most inconsistent outside of Twilight. And it's 7 seasons after the first season. So it's like, it's just triple times. It's like watching an episode of Batman the Animated Series and then watching an episode of the Super Friends. It's just a complete different vibe and tone and animation quality.
I would also say between Batman the Animated Series and Crypto the Super Dog.
Oh yeah, was that canon to the DCAU? I don't know.
I have no idea.
Yeah, no. This episode just freaking just roll it up, toss it out because it is trash.
Mm-hmm. In 15th place, with a 70%, we have A Matter of Principle. The Discord's Spirit episode.
You know what's funny about this episode? It's bad. And that was like the only funny thing about this episode.
Yeah, this is probably the worst Discord episode since Three's a Crowd. But I'll say there is a wide margin between the two because Three's a Crowd is bad for badness sake. This one, it genuinely tried, and it fell flat.
Yeah. Do you remember 5 long years ago when Discord came back and everyone was like, what the hell? And then he made his face turn and everyone was like, what the hell? Do you remember us being 2 of the people that were like, nah, man, let's give this a chance. Give it a shot. It's Discord. It's John Delancey. At that point in time, he'd only had the season 2 premiere and Star Trek clout. Now, it's 5 years after the fact, and they really try. John Delancey He's so energetic. He's so charismatic. And you can hear he's really trying to sell this episode.
Mm-hmm.
But in Three's a Crowd, the problem was Discord and everything else in that order. Discord was a very small problem. That's when you and I kind of came to the mutual agreement that just because it's Discord doesn't mean it gets a free pass. I mean, hell, we were saying that like what would it be 2 years before we were watching DWK? So, and I'm gonna wrap this up right now. With this episode, on top of it not being a great written episode, Discord just felt stale. Like, in my opinion, ever since he came back, he peaked with the Dungeons and Dragons episode where he wanted to have tea with him and Fluttershy, and he tried to change himself, and he felt himself growing more transparent. The one with the schmooze. Those were his two best episodes.
Mm-hmm.
And this is not his worst episode.
It's certainly one of his lower episodes.
It's pretty low. So crumble it up and throw it away because it is trash.
Well, the main thing that I had a problem with was it really just the fact that it was both Discord and Starlight, two of my favorite characters in the show, and that they managed to do such a bad job with it. I mean, it was nice that Spike was kind of there to be kind of like kind of like a mediator between the two. And also it was funny how he kept, kind of mentioning he kept kind of mentioning the fact that you blasted him out of existence. Does that mean he's not coming to our guys' night anymore? Kind of having that sort of end of it was really interesting, but outside of that, it fell flat.
Yeah, and don't even get me started on Starlight because I felt so bad for her in this episode, but it's Discord, and every time he's on screen, the show plays by Discord's rules. It's just a shame that the show forgot what makes Discord rule. See what I did there? Poetic, right?
Yep. All right. In 14th place with a 73%, we have The End in Friend. Better than better than non-compete clause, but still not enough to really, really like bring it ahead above the rest. It was a better episode with two better characters or a better matchup. And it had an interesting premise, but it still kind of went nowhere.
I can sum up this episode in 3 words. 4 words. Did not need to. 5 words. Did not need to happen. When I read the premise for this episode, okay, it made it sound like it was gonna address. I don't even want to say it was gonna address an issue, because no one really has an issue with Rainbow Dash and Rarity's friendship for the most part. But still, it sounded like it was gonna. I don't know if take a microscope or magnifying glass to it is a little over dramatic, but I thought it was at least gonna examine their friendship, because pretty much everyone in this group of friends has had 2 and 2 episodes except for those two. So I was like, okay, this is interesting. This is neat. This is cool. This is unique. But as soon as it was set up that Twilight was the one that started them second guessing their friendship instead of them naturally. I don't want to say naturally, but still, themselves.
Instead of them discovering it for themselves.
Yeah. And then at the end of the episode, where Twilight's like, you see kids Rainbow Dash and I'm like, okay, I get it. That was a joke, but it's just like, and I'm not saying this should have been like a super serial episode or nothing like that. I'm just saying this episode was not what I thought it was going to be. But even if it wasn't, I'm like, okay, this can still surprise me. But it it didn't. It was Twilight being a douche, and the plot didn't need to happen. And I know the more cynical people could say, well, no plot doesn't really happen. Life doesn't need to happen because we're already dead. And it's like, well, first off, it's like if it was a regular episode and like they were doing something and then they were like, huh, I don't really see that much in common with them, and they worked on it from there, and the episode was the quality it was, I would at least say it tackled a unique premise. But this episode, it was the quality it was, but the setup was Twilight literally guinea pigging two of her best friends. And I'm just like,
well, I definitely see where you're coming from that because really looking at it from that perspective, it felt like the conflict was kind of forced into the episode. Like they had the quality of the episode beforehand, and they're like, crap, we need to put a conflict in here, and kind of shoved it in the middle, and it came out with some bumps and bruises. Now, looking at it from this perspective of other episodes, there is better episodes with these two. I'm thinking about Rarity Investigates mainly. Like they really showed up as a very good pairing in that episode because of their conflicting personalities, and it felt much more natural.
And that's another thing I didn't even think about until right now. This episode's trying to pretend that the two have literally never done thing together. I mean, Rarity Investigates is like the most recent example, maybe, but I don't know. It's just, and the way Twilight put it too, she's like, these are two ponies who are friends who have nothing in common, and I'm just like, man, stick it up your flank, okay? It's that's all that episode. That's all that episode makes me feel is.
Yeah. Well, let's move on to the next one. In 13th place, we have our first tie. Both at 74%. We have Father Knows Beast and the Mod Couple.
Okay, so
they're different. They're both. I both see them as the same, but in much different ways. Father Knows Beast kind of just felt like it didn't even need to be there. I mean, it tackled some interesting plot threads in terms of Spike having a possible family. But outside of that, didn't really have any meaning. Mod Couple, on the other hand, it was interesting in the fact of Mod actually having someone that's similar enough to her that she'd be able to tolerate as a boyfriend. But it felt like Pinky just had a autistic screech fest for most of it.
Autistic screech fest. That's funny. You're learning. So I recall watching Father Knows Beast, and again, I'm not expecting every episode that tackles a topic that I find even remotely interesting to be some some Neon Genesis Evangelion, psychological examination or deconstruction of the character archetype. Okay, but what I'm saying is that I thought the episode would have a little more feelsy moments because when what was the dragon's name? I'm just gonna call him Pete. Okay,
Sludge was his name.
No, oh yeah, well still he looks like the Disney character Pete if he was a dragon. So Sludge is like the reveal that he wasn't really his dad. I feel like I wish they had treated that as more of a not tragic, but more of a genuine plot twist, and not portrayed it as such a comical comedy of errors type of thing, where the show is telling you he's lying, and I don't know, maybe it's because
so you can kind of see it from a mile away.
And who knows? And maybe it's because of the fact that we've had 8 years with Spike, and even if you take all the the fan speculation, the videos, the fan fiction, the pictures out of it, we've been with this kid for 8 years, and the idea of his family being brought up, and about his mom and dad, I just feel like they had a chance to it would literally have been the opposite version of The Perfect Pair. The Perfect Pair was about Applejack, Mac, and Apple Bloom learning where they came from and being proud of their family and their heritage, essentially. Spikes was all about realizing that it's not important whether or not he has a biological family. He has his family with Twilight and her friends, right there already. They had the potential and setup to do something like that, but I don't know. I at the time of watching, I just felt kind of off that they used this episode about this dude, because take the pony thing out of it. This dude is freeloading off this kid by lying that he's his dad, and he even comes up with a convincing cover story, and it's just like, it just had me feeling very mixed. Know what I mean? And then to the Mod couple, again, I think I said this in our review. I had mixed feelings about Mod because okay, and this is the reviewer gets up on a soapbox and connects something to his everyday life thing. But quick summary: I've got my share of like trust and like trust issues, and Lord knows I've got enough. I got enough isolation complexes to make me feel like a Batman villain, but I feel like that. Okay, so Pinkie Pie's reaction is, if you know the right people, Pinkie Pie's reaction, to her sister having a boyfriend and not telling her and ditching her all the time, that's a pretty genuine reaction, even if it's overplayed. And I'm only talking from personal experience, her reaction was sadly not that unrealistic. And maybe this is more wishful thinking on my part, maybe placing where I wish the people in my life would have done. Should have had the courage to talk to Pinkie and sit her down about it, type of thing. But she didn't. And her boyfriend's fine. He's whatever. The joke is, oh, he's just like her, but he's a cult. I'm like, okay, that's fine, whatever. But I won't say it's a wasted opportunity. The Spike episode's a wasted opportunity. This episode was able to give a little insight into the way Pinkie's mind works, which is always nice. But I felt like they could have tweaked just a couple things, mainly about the way they wrote Maud to handle the situation. But other than that, I mean, this episode's better than. This episode is better than the Spike episode, but by like a little bit.
Yeah. Now, going back to Father Knows Beast for a little bit, I want to just say what really hurt this episode from me was we've already had the same exact premise in the show before. Look at Dragon Quest. It was the exact same thing. Where do I come from? He finds out he doesn't like it. He goes back to ponies. Now, in Dragon Quest, he finds out on his own. In this episode, Smolder kind of has to tell him, your father's being a dick, you know that, right? And at that point, it's just like, really, have you kind of regressed a little bit, Spike? And I understand that Smolder is probably a bit older than Spike, considering she's a bit taller and she's already had her wings. So she can kind of see that. But at the same time, one scene in particular when she was talking about it and she was saying, in my family, it was never this bad. And I'm thinking, in real life that parents come in all shapes and sizes, and some of them can be pretty terrible people to their kids in all reality. So looking at it from that perspective, I'm thinking, well, no, just because your parents had it differently doesn't mean that this could have been Spike's dad, just in a different way. And that would have been a clever allegory to, abusive parents, but they never went there. It just kind of fell flat. Now, Maud couple, I basically said what I wanted to say was the fact that it's interesting to have a character that is very similar to Maud. And I like what you said about it kind of delving into Pinkie's psyche, but I do agree with you that Maude had a little bit more because it tackled a little bit more subtext than Father Knows Beast did.
Because, like, I get it, right? The idea is that Pinkie Pie's acting immature, and that seems to be the story that a lot of people go with when people like Pinkie react in the way Pinkie did. But I mean, it takes a level. But one lesson I guess the lesson I wish that they had put forward instead is that, yeah, Pinkie Pie should have been a little more mature about it, but Maude should have had the maturity to have the courage to bring it up. That's my last word.
Yeah, yeah. So in 12th place, we have our second tie, and it is by a whopping 1% from the last place.
Oh my God.
Both at 75%.
Oof.
Yeah, we have Between a Rock and a Hard Place and Granny's Gone Wild.
You know, Granny's Gone Wild, until you said it right now, was an episode I forgot even happened. But Rockhoof and a Hard Place, I feel like I'm getting redundant at this point. But like Rockhoof and a Hard Place wasn't nearly as much wasted potential as the other ones. But to me, I felt like, well, first off, I feel like people were being a little unreasonably stingy with Rockhoof, especially the lady that was archaeologically her, his home and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I feel like the cameos from the God, what do you even call Starbeard's group of friends? The OG six? I don't know.
No, they were.
Screw it. We're just gonna call them the Ministry of Magic. So
okay.
So the Ministry of Magic, I felt like their cameos, they felt kind of shoehorned in. I mean, okay, the Bayou chick, she served a purpose because she actually gave her an idea of something to do. But everyone else just kind of said hi, bye, and lol. The Egyptian chick didn't even talk to Rockhoof, so
yeah, and considering that she's the other nationality in terms of the elements of virtue, that's saying something.
Well, did they imply an Asian type of background for the old lady? What was her name?
I don't remember her name, but she was the one for healing. Yeah. Now looking at Sonambula and Rockhoof, what I mean to say is, you have an Egyptian woman and a Scottish man. So in that perspective, there are two nationalities right there that could really very well learn from each other and would have the most sense learning from each other, but that never happens.
I can summarize any Egyptian Scottish conversation right here. We like lifting rocks. Oi, us too, laddie. There you go.
Yep. For a Scotsman? Laddie, you're looking at the only red shirt that's not dead.
So there's that one. And then Granny's Gone Wild.
The fact that Rainbow Dash wants to go on a roller coaster, cool. But second of all, these bitches were thirsty. So it really went up to Girls Gone Wild in that perspective.
Yeah,
but at the same time, it's like,
pretty sure one of those
Dash, learn some responsibility for God's sakes.
Here's my thing. Rainbow Dash was mostly the victim in this episode because all the grannies wanted to do was jump the magician pony's bones, and I'm pretty sure one of them was Trixie's dad. And on top of that, they didn't imply anything to Rainbow Dash as far as like what they want to do or stuff they like and all that. And I'm just thinking to myself, you girls are bitches. Like honestly, they're things like her whole thing. Rainbow Dash is all like, okay, I don't want to expose them to anything extreme because I don't want them to, I want them to hurt themselves or get injured or something like that. And plus, they're old, so they'll probably need to sleep a lot. that's understandable thinking. But the old ladies, on the other hand, they're like, oh, we like to skydive on Thursdays. And it's like, oh my God. I just felt like that the old ladies were unlikable. I mean, it's always cool to see what's the one Peter New voices, Golden Smith or something?
Golden Delicious.
Yeah, it's always fun to see her again, but other than that, I'm just like, ugh.
Yeah. I know what you mean.
What was number 12?
Well, both of those were number 12. We're actually going to number 11 now.
That's what I said.
Ugh. In 11th place with a 78%, we have Fake It Till You Make It.
Oh, yeah, this was the one about the casting couch.
Yep.
No, what was this one again?
It was the one where Fluttershy has multiple different personalities for running Rarity for You.
Oh, yeah, so kind of
that pony is woke.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's kind of that kind of was casting couch. You know, some people talk smack on this episode. I thought it was funny. I liked Fluttershy's personalities. Hipster woke pony. You know, all the neckbeards are always trying to be like, "Oh my God, Fluttershy's so woke. I can't even autistic screech." But I'm just like, man, pull the sticks out of your asses. That was funny.
Yeah, and I know you were putting a look onto it from the fact that you live in California and every girl in California is like that.
It's more than, how do I put this? It's less than you think, but more than you hope.
Yeah, pretty much.
But yeah, no, I thought this episode was a lot of fun. I mean, there were some, it all stems from the misunderstanding that, it all stems from the fact that Fluttershy just misunderstood Rarity and took it literally. But first off, Rarity didn't train her efficiently or effectively for any type of work environment. And then second, it's like, dude, the fashion industry sucks, okay? The customers suck. The working conditions suck. It all sucks, okay? Just buy band T-shirts. Your life will be a lot easier, people.
Mm-hmm. Now, I do have to say...
Who needs to walk around with sequenced plaid and nice flowy dresses? Just put on a Metallica T-shirt and a flip-up hat, and bro, you got yourself a nice, comfy lifestyle.
Yeah, I'll say this, though. One of my favorite things from this episode was, well, number one, when they all get fired. That was funny, where it was one personality after another.
She had to fire Fluttershy, who was Crazy Jane. Obscure DC character reference. Yep. Fluttershy, who was Crazy Jane for this episode, she had to fire all three personalities. Can you imagine if they did that for Crazy Jane? Crazy Jane in the DC comics, she had 96 personalities, each with unique powers. They actually, you know what? That's what I'm going to do. Someone needs to write a fan fiction where Crazy Jane goes to Equestria. It'd be the most random crossover ever. And I've seen the Suicide Squad meets. I've seen the Suicide Squad meets the Cutie Mark Crusaders, so it wouldn't be the worst thing.
Yeah, but the other thing I like about the episode is the fact that Rarity actually, you know, even though you were saying that she didn't really train Fluttershy for any kind of working environment, at the same time she did still care about Fluttershy until she noticed that Fluttershy was actually doing pretty well on her own.
Yeah, no.
She's like, okay, then I have nothing to worry about.
Which rightly so. I mean, yeah, and at the point it made sense because at that particular point, Fluttershy had only really encountered the one type of customer, but then Norma the normie comes in, and then she's like, dude, I need something that shows that. Yes, I do have a blog, but I also have a quirky personality. And Fluttershy's like, what the hell? I don't speak Tumblr. So she had to get woke.
Indeed.
Get woke, boy. Bass drop.
All right.
That's the next Justifiable Treason song. I'm gonna just say boy, gonna be a bass drop, and then there's gonna be like 200 beats per minute thrash metal drumming.
In 10th place with a 79%, so another 1% increase, we have Meltdown.
Man, how are some of these episodes so high? Is this your score?
For me, I had an 8, you had a 7.75.
I mean, this one was all right. Meltdown, that's the one where...
That's the one where Spike got his wings.
Where Spike goes back to school for his gynecology degree. Yeah, I remember. No, I mean, I like the idea. I like that Spike has wings. That's lit. I think it's funny that he's now literally the only character. Sorry, let me repeat that. I like how Sulu is now the only character who should be capable of flight, but actually can't fly. So that's, oof, rip, F to pay respects. Other than that, episode was, I don't really remember too much from it. And I looked up a good number of these episodes before we met up today so I get a refresher. But I'm just like, wait, what happened again? Spike smelled really bad. And like Twilight, he thought Twilight was going to kick him out. So he ran away for like the 5th time or something.
Yeah, pretty much.
This episode is the poster child for it's all right.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this episode. I mean, it was, it wasn't amazing or anything, but it certainly had a good structure to it. Especially with the fact, like, the only main downside I can think of is Rarity shouting for half the episode because apparently the phoenix feathers made her deaf. And I'm like, oh my gosh. But it was nice. But it was nice.
A funny background event.
Yeah, it was nice to see Zecora back and able to see kind of how dragon puberty, hits and everything like that. But
I swear, though, by the name of the Father, the Son, the Holy Ghost, and Metallica's hardwired to self-destruct, you would not think Zecora has been a recurring character since season 1.
Yeah, and I'll say this. My favorite line from this episode is where Pinky comes into the broom closet where Smolder's talking to Spike about what's going on. And she comes in and she sniffs and she's like, where's that Brussels sprout covering cotton candy smell coming from?
And I'm just thinking to myself, wow, is that what kids are calling it now? Dab.
Yeah. He smelled like weed. Alrighty.
That's funny. Okay, yeah, it was all right though. It was all right. It was sad-eye.
Yep. In 9th place, we have our next tie, both with 80%, another percent increase. We have Yakety Sax and the Breakup Breakdown.
Okay, I remember. Refresh my memory. I remember liking Yakety Sax quite a bit. But I can't remember. Did I seem to like the Breakup Breakdown? What was that episode about again?
The one with Sugar Bell and Big Mac.
Oh, yeah.
It's all flooding back to you now, aren't you? Isn't it? And the best line, even though it came out early, was, "You don't go to Fluttershy's just for the tea." And then he lists off all the fucking tea.
Oh my god. Okay. I remember really liking Yakety Sax because long-haired Pinky, yes. And I felt that the episode was intentionally a good allegory to when a buddy has a hobby and all his friends don't like it. But he enjoys it, but the person enjoys it. And they're like, you know what? Forget it. It's his life. Let's let him live it. But I think unintentionally, it's a story talking about how everyone thinks I suck as a bass player.
Dude, are you okay?
No. Anyway, so yeah, I really liked the episode. And Breakup Breakdown, it was another didn't need to happen plot. But I feel like I like it as much as I do, mostly just for that freaking Spike line. That was fucking funny, dude. And the episode had some good gags here and there. it was classic miscommunication plot, but it had a sweet ending. So I Sugar Bell's really proven herself good for Big Mac, so that's nice.
Yeah, I agree. You know, going with this episode, it was nice to see that there was kind of a misunderstanding, but it made sense in the context of the episode, because there's a lot of times where it's a misunderstanding that they're just moping around for 5 to 10 minutes, when really in this episode, it happens fairly early on, and you're able to kind of get through how they're still wanting to, like Big Mac's still wanting to fight for their relationship instead of just moping around like most characters. And Sugar Bell is none the wiser.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's just interesting in that perspective. All righty, let's see. We are at, and going with the Yakety Sax, the Yavitaphone, and the fact that it lends more credence to my headcanon that the Yaks are very much like Klingon from the Star Trek series.
Yeah, turns out you may have hit the mark on that one, buddy.
Yep. In 8th place, we have the next tie, both with 81%, another 1% increase. My God, these episodes were close together. We have Surf and or Turf and the Parent Map. I have to say right away, Surf and or Turf, that's one that I think is better than Parent Map, in my personal opinion. Because again, Parent Map hit way too close to home for me.
I thought Parent Map was great on the grounds that, what the hell happened to my focus? Okay, there we go. I thought Parental Trap was great, much like how I did for the Flutter Brudder thing, because it hit close to home. It close to home to me too. But what was great about it was because, to me, that exemplifies a well-made product if it can elicit those kind of genuine reactions out of people. I mean, there's no taboo saying that Friendship is Magic can't write an episode like that, or anyone can or can't. You know, people are just uncomfortable. I find folks are just uncomfortable when they have to look in the mirror. And Surf and or Turf, that was the one where, if I remember right, wasn't that the one where what's her name can't decide whether or not she wants to spend the holidays with on, or this one hippogriff holiday on sea or on land or something, and it's like,
yeah, it's Silverstream's brother.
Oh,
and it's a giant allegory for divorced parents.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. It's like they were an allegory, or at least separated or something.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, I thought both were really well written. One definitely had more subtext than the other, but overall, I thought they were both really nice written, well paced. With good, they were just good stories. It's always great to see a little more into Starlight's past. And the idea of Starlight being super duper goth bro is just awesome to me. So,
oh yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah,
I remember seeing DWK's video about this. It's like, you were rocking out to Disturbed in your bedroom, weren't you? And I was just like, all these skulls look like, all this stuff makes you think that she probably listened to Kiss back in the day.
I'm telling you, dude, I just remember there wasn't a soul alive who didn't have Disturbed's The Sickness or 10,000 Fists fucking at me, bro.
Yeah. Now, with Parent Map, I know you were saying that it hit you positively. To me, it hit me very negatively.
Oh, no, it hit me negative too, but I'm saying that it did it so well, and the fact that it was able to do that poignantly, that's why I liked it, in spite of it making me feel like a failure.
Well, unfortunately, it didn't do that to me. It just made me. It just kind of made me feel like a failure without the poignancy, if that makes sense.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the whole point about BoJack Horseman. It's like, yeah, Bojack's a total loser, but he's still somebody that can. But the positive behind it is that life is at its worst is still worth living, and you can persevere through it.
Yeah.
That's why I feel like that's why I could take episodes like this and Flutter Brother with a grain of salt. I mean, dude, yeah, I've got a job, but bro, I'm an overweight dude that talks about ponies, and I have a in-house self-produced music project. Trust me, I connected to Parental Trap and Flutter Brother.
Yeah.
So I understand where you're coming from, and I'm not knocking you because trust me, if it made me uncomfortable, if it made me more uncomfortable, I probably would have downvoted it the same reason as you. But I just can't, in my mind, I just can't knock something when it's able to just hit you in the heart, dude. Not you personally, but just you as in the summarization of the human experience.
Yeah, I agree with you with that. But again, it's how we have our different perspectives. Now, in terms of surf and or turf, again, I think it was a great allegory for separated parents. And it's like, you don't have to choose which of us you want to live with. Like, you can make that decision on your own. That's not a huge deal. If you want it, like, we were never wanting to force you to be on land or by sea. If you want to keep switching between the two, fine. That's great. I mean, there's a lot of kids that want to do that, especially when it comes to like the court system and visitation rights that they may prefer one parent over the other, or they may want to love both parents equally, and that's fine too.
Yeah, I've seen what the court system does to people. Like it happened to my pops like way before I was born, but I see how it affects him and other people from like some people I know to celebrities to freaking shoe nice, dude. It's the shit's hell on everybody. It's hell on everybody. I mean obviously it's the most positive and hopeful depiction of divorced separated parents, especially when you compare what is normally the bar of depicting divorced parents with Kramer versus Kramer, for instance. But that's unfair to compare the two. Long story short, I liked the episode and I liked the allegory. It was, the kids or people in that situation need that, and it's good for them.
Yeah, I agree. So let's see where we're at now. So in 7th place with an 83%, we have Friendship University.
Oh yeah, good old FU. So wasn't this the premiere?
No, this was...
No, I'm sorry. This is the Flim and Flam episode.
Yeah, the Flim and Flam episode with Stars Roll the Bearded.
This episode was... My favorite part in this episode were the rarity disguises. Other than that, I feel like... I don't understand why this show seems to be so hell-bent on keeping Flim and Flam of all characters bad guys. I think it's because they're male and we live in a sexist society. Not seriously. But no, I was like... but other than that, I mean, like, yeah, the disguises part was great. The plot was interesting because it's and I don't know if it probably wasn't this, but you could look at it as a commentary on how when something successful comes out, you've got people trying to capitalize on it with a lesser quality product, and they're charging more money. And there's a whole bunch of things you could do with that. You could take that with, I don't know, the rise of mobile games or stuff like pay to win with the loot boxes, or like, I don't know, around comparing Fortnite to PUBG and stuff like that. And it's like, or like when Mario came out and every 2-bit game developer with a dream tried to make a side-scrolling game, and like there's just so many bad ones. I'm not even just talking about the fact that I've watched every episode of AVGN. It's like the intent is there, but in my opinion, I feel like while a good episode, the intent and potential outweigh the quality of the episode, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because Star's world was just there in every sense of the word. Only reason why he was there was to set up the fake out and make Flim and Flam look super duper legit. But then the plot was, oh my god, they're actually not legit. Oh, but yeah, no, it was a good episode. It was a good episode. It was, I mean, obviously it's been the best one so far for the most part, but yeah.
Yeah, I'll say that, the fact of, I don't really know how to feel about this episode because I liked the fact of, Star Swirl being there and saying, "Hey, I found something that's able to rival your school, not like up yours or anything, but like it's interesting to see it." And kind of the way that they kind of con everyone out, and that it's literally stealing a curriculum, and the fact that, the reason that it gets accredited in the first place is because Naysay sees that Star Swirl the Bearded's there. So they're like, it must be good. It's just kind of a mess, but at the same time, it's still a lot of fun.
Yeah, I remember thinking before the eventual plot twist came, I remember thinking, man, how neat would it be if Flim and Flam actually went straight, and then this episode was about Twilight Sparkle learning to forgive and forget and, overcome suspicion and doubt. But no, it's Flim and Flam being a-holes again, which is like, okay, whatever. But still, I was like, I kind of wish they went with that. I understand why they didn't, but I kind of wish they went with that. But, that's an audience trying to rewrite the show thing. So, grain of salt with that.
Yeah, I agree with you with that. Sorry, I'm just kind of still calculating out all the stuff and see if I can get that done before we're done with our scores, because we definitely need to look at how it all fared out at the beginning. But let's go to the next one. Okay. This one, number 6, is a whopping 5-way tie.
Are you freaking kidding me?
All at 85%. We have the Washouts, the Road to Friendship, Horse Swearing Club, Horseplay, and the Premiere.
Okay.
God damn.
I'm not saying I forgot what all those episodes were about, but let's just go by them one by one. What was the first one you said?
The Washouts, the one where Scootaloo joins Lightning Dust team.
I at least remember that one, thankfully. I really enjoyed this one just flat out. I liked it beginning, middle, to end. I liked the conflict between Scootaloo and Rabodash. Lightning Dust, it was interesting to see her again because it's been a while. Her teammates were funny and quirky, and it had a real good lesson for Rainbow Dash and Scootaloo to learn. And it was really solid, beginning, middle, and end. What was the yeah, that's me. What's yours on that?
Mine on that was the fact of, it kind of brings back a rivalry, which is something I've been wanting to see. But at the same time, it's a little bit more of an issue, mainly because it's talking about Scootaloo. Yeah. So it's going on that tightrope walk of, I'm wanting to help her because I'm like a mentor to her, but at the same time, I can't let my personal feelings get in the way.
Yeah, I feel that.
Let's see. Next one that we had for that was the Road to Friendship.
That was the one where
Trixie and Starlight went on the road trip.
Oh, okay. Yeah, or as I like to call it, DWK's Wet Dream episode. Yeah, no, this was, again, just very good. Man, talk about a freaking spike of episode quality from the last, 5 episodes we talked about, and now this one. Holy crap. So, yeah, no, my only critique is that I wish that the show would have shown how much more in the wrong Starlight was than Trixie when Starlight sold Trixie's wagon. That's one little critique I have. But other than that, nah, it was great. It was really, really good.
You know, speaking of DWK, my favorite part of Is Totally Legit is where it's like, how are we going to prove that we're friends? Quick, Starlight, can you blow me? Just like, what the fuck? But I like the other character that's introduced with this, you know, because he's kind of like not necessarily a foil to the two of them. He's more of like hey, I'm here to help if you want it, sort of thing. But he's also kind of a not really a dick about it, but more of like, I'm here if you need it, but I'm not going to interfere, even though I see you two tearing each other apart.
What's that called? It's called like the bystander complex or something, where someone sees something bad or gnarly going on, but they choose to stay out of it.
I think so.
I forget the actual name for it, but I thought bystander was in the name. But yeah, other than that mild critique, I thought this episode was just, you know, it was just a it's good.
Yeah. Let's see. Then we had Heartswarming Club. The one where they all talked about their different holidays.
Where they all talked about, yeah, I remember. No, I didn't remember. This one was hella great because, okay, this show seems to really like plot twists like a lot more than you think. But the eventual, the stories were all nice and cute, but the reveal of Gallus being the one that sabotaged, you know, the stuff and the reason why, it was to me, it was just so well done. Like it took things in a little different direction, and there was no like, there was no halfways about it. He was straight up like, yeah, I had no friends and I had no family, literally. So I was just like, man. Again, I just have one minor critique, and it was, I felt that while heartwarming, the young six saying they were going to stay with Gallus over the holidays, I feel like that undercuts them talking about how much holidays with the family means to them. Just in the sense that, you know, they were like, oh man, I'm so excited. I'm so stoked I get to go home. But then they're like, oh, I'll spend the entirety of Heartswarming here with Gallus. I liked that Twilight was an authority figure and followed through with her punishment. But the ending, while it was nice for Gallus, to me, it undercut the other characters' stories that they had told throughout the episode.
I definitely see where you're coming from with that, because really looking at it, it was good world building, number one. And I do definitely agree with you that, you know, Twilight did do the right thing where she's like, I'm going to let you guys have a chance to apologize if one of you did it. Because in all reality, some people just need that little nudge of like, if you want to come forward, you can come forward. We're not going to judge you. You're still going to get punished, but we're not going to judge you for it. Like, we're not going to announce it to the whole world, sort of thing.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, so that was a really good way to kind of show everything. I definitely know exactly where you're coming from with that. Then we had Horseplay. I had a big
this was the one where
Celestia acts.
Celestia acts. Oh god. Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah, you go first.
Okay. Aside from the fact that I've been a drama student for most of my life.
Same here.
That was definitely something that I could agree with, because, you know, it's funny to see Celestia in different situations. Like in this situation, she was kind of like the buffoon almost, because she's been seen as a troll, as in the bird in the hoof. Oh, there we go. She was also seen as like, you know, you could see like Tyrant Lestia in the fandom and everything like that. And also, you also got to see You also got to see in this episode specifically how she was portrayed as kind of like taking everything too seriously when she doesn't understand the theatrics all that well. She knows she likes it, but she doesn't understand it.
Yeah.
So that was kind of the big thing that I loved. And I also loved at the end when she raises the son, and I think it was Filthy Rich saying, "Yeah, that's some great prop building right there." Shit. So go ahead and say what you want to say.
Yeah, much like you, as you know, I have a theater drama background, and what I liked about the story was the fact that Twilight was afraid to say anything to Celestia because she was like, dude, I don't want to critique my own teacher, which, speaking again as a theater guy, one of the first things you learn when you get into any entertainment business is A, how to take criticism, and B, is you get taught that you're going to have to deal with constructive criticism. There's different levels of it, and depending on who your theater trope is with and all that, you can have various levels of exposure to criticism, but it's all part of the game. And let me tell you, Applejack's frustration was so warranted during this episode, because I remember in theater class when, there were just some kids that just needed a little bit more ironing out and a little more work, but no one said anything. And I'm just like, oh my God, someone's got to tell them something, I mean, part of that was because, some people get critiqued more than others, no matter how new or not they are, or whatever. So I thought that was it was a unique plot device for the show, and it was another Celestia Twilight type of relationship building thing, which, again, always appreciated. So on that grounds, I liked it. I also liked it because at the end, when Celestia is raising the son, Luna just has, for some reason, she has this bored look on her face, like, Celestia, I just raised the moon.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, the episode was overall good. Not my favorite of the ones we talked about, but it's pretty good. I probably should watch it again, just because I feel like that's one of those episodes I need a second watching on. But it was good. I really liked it.
Yeah, and then the final one we have is the premiere. So why don't you take the reins for this? I'm almost done calculating everything out.
Okay, I'll try to explain I'll try to make my thoughts all, well thought out and stuff to give you time. Yeah, so I liked it.
Wow. Thank you for the well thought out.
Okay, so obviously one thing that these premieres and the finales, but the premieres more than anything else, one thing that these premieres really excel at is the world building. And in this case, it wasn't so much a world building, it was a world expansion. The evil school dude, Pony, I thought he was a pretty good character throughout the course of the season. It introduced the young six. I thought they were all very likable and very, I thought Silverstream was very clearly supposed to be Ocellus, but whatever. And yeah, I liked how the young six, when they got together, it felt like, obviously you could see it coming, but it still felt organic. Maybe them ditching the school just so they could still hang out was a little too extreme. I mean, it makes sense for the show, but other than that little teeny tiny thing, I thought from beginning to end, it was interesting. I love that shot where Twilight's in the big room with all the equestrian, authoritarian bigwigs, and she's trying to, because I like how she has to fight for the school to exist, because, as we've said in various other reviews, it's a very real concern that that the old guard has, because of the fact that, except for like three of the five, no, it's like 3 out of the 8 times that the Equestria's almost been taken over or destroyed, it's been by a non-pony. So their suspiciounism and xenophobia is given enough depth to where it's not one-dimensional, and it doesn't set up the whole cliche, you need to trust others. No. One thing I have always appreciated about Friendship is Magic is the fact that it's pretty much always openly some people are just bad apples. It doesn't matter what species they are. Some people are just bad apples. And to me, the episode, it just set up, it had a lot of qualities that debuted here that is part of what made the whole season great. But it was just a really strong start to me. To me, it was better than last season's premiere, which wasn't even a 2-parter. But other than that, yeah, it was a good premiere, and it really set things up nicely for the rest of the season.
Okay, I do definitely see what you're talking about. The one thing I have to say is the young 6 were very well brought in for this premiere. A lot of the focus was on them, and really, I do have to agree with you that I loved the big room that they were in to kind of get, the curriculum accredited by NASE. And again, It got big thoughts from me of, oh my gosh, this looks exactly like the Ministry of Magic #1, and NASE looks like he's fucking Doctor Strange. So that's fucking awesome. And it was just really interesting to see how the equestrian education system works. But the fact that it's run by a racist is kind of sad. But I did enjoy how everything was set up. I know the song that was in here was completely forgettable, but outside of that, a really
there was good a song.
A really good first impression for the season.
Oh yeah, that was me all day, dude. I only had good thoughts about the episode, and I remember saying when we reviewed it, I was like, dude, I hope these 6 characters show up again, and I'm so glad they did.
Mm-hmm. All right. Now that we're out of that 5-way tie, let's move into, thankfully, there's no more ties after this. So this is good. We had a doozy, and now it's gone. So now we're up to the top 5 spots. In 5th place with an 86%, we had The Sound of Silence.
So this episode, how do I put this? This episode was neat. The design of the creatures was neat. Their angry and peaceful mode was neat. The new guest character was charming and fun. I liked it. Was one of this episode had one of the better songs this season. And it was a good, I felt like my issue, and this was both of ours, my issue was the pacing. And honestly, it felt like the Applejack and Fluttershy subplot felt like it just had to be there because they were so busy introducing this new species of pony. But other than that, this was open shut. This was just a pleasant episode to me.
Indeed. Now, what you were talking about, you were saying that you liked that their fire forms is really neat. I'm just thinking, hand one of them flaming Kieran a microphone, and you have fucking Corey Taylor, like, seriously.
Oh my god. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Have you seen that dude's masks?
Well, just think about how he sounds. I'm not gonna make it. Just like, that sounds like something that a flaming Kieran would sound like,
Honestly, that probably is what they sound like, but Hasbro probably doesn't want Slipknot associated with the pony name.
Yeah. Now, in the perspective, Autumn Blaze is fucking adorable. Like, really fucking adorable. I love her. I love how we keep getting Pinkie Pie-like characters, but they're thankfully each distinct enough from Pinkie Pie to still be interesting. This is one of those times. The best song of this season as well. I love this song. Because rainbows don't fall from the sky unless you let it rain. You know, that is so cool.
Yeah, no, it was. I was gonna say I don't know if this is my favorite song from this season, but I'm trying to remember any of the songs that were from this season. So
Road to Friendship was one of them.
And honestly, you know what? Yeah, it's probably this one.
Yeah, it felt like the most fleshed out song out of the season 8 run, and really thinking about it from that perspective, you know, going back to the Kieran a little bit, I love how they have this silencing pool and the fact that they raised their city to the ground and they're like, we can't have this happen again, so they all go silent. And I'm just like, my God, that's interesting. Now, I'm wondering, can they learn ASL with hooves?
Oh my God. It kind of reminded me of like the anti-spirals from Gurren Lagann, because they were an entire planet of people to protect the universe. They sealed themselves away in their own planet and like rendered themselves completely immobile, just assimilated themselves into a hive mind. It's a little more dramatic, but that's kind of what that reminds me of.
Yeah. And, you know, the other thing is, I love how that Fluttershy finds the cure even before they get to the village. So the Fluttershy and Applejack subplot that we were talking about fits in, you know, yeah. So they were able to keep them connected.
And it also helped them save time because they didn't have to go out looking for it.
So in fourth place with an 88% out of 100, we have The Mean Six.
Oh my God. I heard this episode was kind of 50-50 with some people. I thought that it was, I mean, the only issue I have was that Chrysalis didn't show up again after this episode. But like I said, other than that, I thought the episode was just a blast.
Well, I know that when Jensen came on for it, he loved it. I was kind of lackluster about it. You were pretty much right in the middle with all of it. So, you know, it was a good dichotomy of differing opinions. But at the same time, again, if it was leading up to something more, I would have liked it a lot more. But the fact that it didn't really lead up to anything more, it just kind of fell flat and disappointing.
And you're definitely in the right to feel that, because I mean, it's Chrysalis, so we're conditioned to believe that anytime she shows up, except for like the flashback sequence when Spike meets Steve for the first time, the Thorax. I mean, every time she's shown up, it's had some semblance of importance, or it's been important. She's an important character. And this is one of the episodes that they teased about when the season was coming out. And to have it kind of just be another episode in a similar vein, and I think we brought this up, but in a similar vein to the Equestria Games episode, something that was hyped up all season, and it just ended up being just another Spike episode. I can understand what you're saying, but I don't know, maybe my expectations were lower than others. But I thought it was a fun episode. I feel like I kind of wish the main six didn't straight up die, but you know,
yeah. I mean, it wasn't a bad episode in any way. I still had a lot of fun with it, but it felt kind of lackluster, especially being that it was Chrysalis. Now, before we get to the next spot, do you have a light you can turn on or something? Because you're getting really dark when you're the only one speaking. Like your face turns completely black.
I like it dark.
Is that why you're a Batman fan?
No, I'll turn on the lamp.
All right. So again, kind of going back to Mean Six, I liked all the different like how it felt like the discorded six were very much the souls of the antiquated six, of like the anti-six. Oh, geez, there we go. But it was interesting in that regard. But again, I agree with you that they shouldn't have just straight up died. It would have been interesting to have them around for a while longer.
At least I thought so.
Yeah. So now we're on to the top three. In third place with a 95% out of 100, we have Marks for Effort, the intro to Cozy Glow.
You know, this episode was good already, but I can't help but feel if it feels even better with the prospect of hindsight, you know?
Yeah, in
Because,
a way,
like,
I get what you mean.
because we know now, you know, what that episode set up and what the episode and what came about because of the events of this episode. But on its own, it was I remember really just digging the episode just in general. I think it's great. I thought it was great.
You know, I definitely see where you're coming from, and going back to the thing we were talking about with the Star Wars prequels, seeing episode 3 kind of made episode 1 a little bit better because you got to see how Palpatine was kind of conniving even back then.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say, but I think my internet cut out or something. Anyway, yeah, I because now that we see what came after this episode, it makes it even better. But yeah, no, I mean, just like, because I was feeling uneasy about her when she first showed up, and it just did so much good with her character.
Yeah.
Because you think it's just a Cutie Mark Crusader episode, but then when you watch the episode, oh damn, brah, it was a Cozy Glow episode.
Now, you know, I do agree with you. You know, it was a good episode in its own right, even without the pretense of everything that came after it. It's one of the best CMC episodes, actually. You know, so that's a really good thing. And you know, just seeing, I do agree with you that I never trusted Cozy Glow either. She really felt like the kind of character that I'm like, I don't know about you, you know.
Hold up there now, fella.
Hold up. In second place with a 98%, a 9 out of 10, we have the finale.
Yeah, okay, so this finale, you know, you want to talk something that takes everything about the show and turn it on its head. We thought it was Tyrek, then we thought it was Starlight, now it's Cozy Glow, because every other villain had the excuse of being some old deity or being some misguided wayward soul. Cozy Glow's a kid, and she's a flat out freaking psychopath, and it's awesome. I remember saying at the time of our review, in a way, I'm really glad that they didn't go too much into her, you know, reasons why, because I don't feel like they ruined Starlight Glimmer with her Freudian excuse in the season 5 finale, but I feel like saving it for another day keeps interest in Cozy Glow and is more of an incentive to bring her back. So using that, I just felt that I just like the idea that she's just an evil kid, you know? It's awesome.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you with that, and kind of going on the fact of, you said in the review that it's very much a war of words instead of action. It was very slow moving, but every step of it was deliberate, and it was amazing.
Yeah, I know. Someone once told me that the term slow burn is a word that people use to describe something boring, but they use slow burn if it's something they like, and if it's something they don't like, then it's boring. But I just don't see how someone couldn't like this episode. Like from a writing standpoint and everything was there. All the boxes were ticked. You know, it was great.
Yeah, definitely. So We have one episode left.
But right
Can
now,
you guess what it is?
Right now, we're going to take a break from our sponsors. Today's show is brought to you by Dollar Shave Club. No, I'm kidding. That was a shout out to H3H3. You used to be the internet superhero. Now you're a bit of a cuck.
Yes. In first place with a full 100% score, we have the glorious episode of What Lies Beneath.
Dude, where's my car? Sean William Scott and Ashton Kutcher, right? They're a dream made in heaven. Yeah, no, What Lies Beneath. This episode was pure, flat out, fat fire, my guy. Like we're talking fire. Like this was the good. This was good. Yes. Deep fried, boneless goodness.
Indeed. Now, the main thing that I will say about this episode is the fact that I like that the tree is almost sentient, because we saw it a little bit in Mean Six, where the elements of harmony being put back into the tree. Number one helped with the plunder vines back in season 4, but in this in Mean Six, it kind of was like, you guys aren't the main six, you ain't the real deal. Suck it, you know. And one of my favorite pictures from that was from DWK when he did this episode. He literally had so they're like titles of like video games, but they're rearranged to say like the ass was fat or whatever.
Oh yeah.
He had one that was literally Twilight with the wrinkly face, and it would say deadly orgasm. I'm just like, oh my God. That's too perfect. But it was also like, I'm going to test you because you can supersede the main six. So let's see what you guys got. And these tests were awesome, especially Gallus's.
I've been very upfront with the fact that I feel the best way to develop a character is to put them through some traumatic or dark shit and have a stronger, smarter person. And that they tortured my 6 little children, and it was glorious. I loved it. I loved every second of this episode. As soon as they went underground, this just transcended, my boy. This just transcended the show.
And really coming from the fact that it was a few episodes right before the finale, and it showed Cozy Glow manipulating once again. That made it so much better.
The ending was pretty hilarious, though, because and I did this when we did the review, but you had Cozy Glow at the end going, like, don't worry, just leave everything to Cozy. I remember saying the only way you could make it any more obvious that this little shit heel is evil is if she had, like, actual fingers and hands, and she was going like, don't worry, just leave everything to Cozy Glow.
Yeah, right. Like, can we make it any more obvious?
But I feel like it was supposed to be obvious, maybe. I'm not sure. Doesn't matter. What matters is this episode was great. It was practically flawless. And I feel like if people weren't sold on the Young Six, I have to imagine that this episode sold them on it.
So, I hope I did these calculations right. I probably messed up somewhere, but they're pretty close to accurate. So in total, with this season, we had 500 points to give out.
Holy crap.
Out of those 500 points, our scores brought it up to 406.5 points, leading us to a final season score of 81%, a solid B-. Congratulations, Season 8. You did a great job.
Yeah, congratulations. You are winner. Your reward is one more season.
Yeah. So, not really all that much happened with this season in terms of the fandom, except that DWK was awesome as per usual.
There was the Toon Critic crap.
Oh my gosh. Again, we have a couple videos that kind of go through that. So if you want to see them, go search for them. They're on the channel. It was, let's just say, a very traumatic event, especially for me, because I roomed with the guy. So it was kind of difficult for me to process everything. But outside of that, not really much happened.
Fandom's been quiet the last couple of years.
Dr. Wolf, as usual, though, has been doing some pretty good videos. A lot of therapy visits that have been really good. Golden Fox came back for a couple episodes. So that's pretty cool.
That. Yeah, I saw that. That was kind of neat.
I saw him doing Meltdown, and he's laughing at when Spike does his first like big fire burp, because he's like, it sounds like Spike's throwing up, and at the same time, Twilight's expression just like, oh my gosh, what the heck? But yeah, I mean, again, fandom's been quiet. We're one of the few that are still trucking on through. And next week, we're going to be going over the Christmas special that aired over the past week, which being the best gift ever. And all I'm going to say before we review it is...
Was it the best gift ever?
Possibly. But at the same time, it's also... The shipping was strong with this one.
Ooh, there hasn't really been any good ship fuel for a while, so that's always nice.
Well, let's just say Sparity came back in spades, and I love it.
Oh, they'll be all right then.
So, signing off for the final time this season, that's it from me, John.
And that's me, Snakeskin.
And we'll talk to you guys later. Peace out, Dragon.
Adios.